the Radio Forest Podcast.
I'm Randy here.
Hey, Randy, it's Forrest on the Eagle. How are you?
I'm great, ready to roll.
You're coming to the Western Idaho Fair Monday, August 18th. Do you have a lot of memories of going to the fair as a kid?
I do, and I spent many years in a place called Lyndon, Washington, where they have the Washington State Fair. And I would go there every year and see, holy cow, Rick Nelson, Willie Nelson, Beach Boys, Paul Revere and the Raiders. And now I'm on the circuit, and it's thrilled to go and play for families because I'm playing for like 3 or 4 generations. You know, I look in the audience, I see grandfathers and their sons and their grandsons, and they're all rocking out to the music. We're playing hits from the 60s, 70s, and the 90s, where my son Tal had his hits. So.
Yeah, I saw that you guys are doing Tal's song live. How did that come up? Was that your idea, or was it just hard to have him in the band? You're like, well, if he's in the band, we got to do that song, right?
Well, both. It was such a worldwide hit. I mean, everybody everywhere knows that song. There's been choirs doing it on YouTube and singing it with hundreds and hundreds of people doing different parts. And it's pretty amazing. Somebody said to me, like, you do all the Guess Who hits from the 60s that you wrote and played on. You're doing all the BTO hits. Why don't you put Tal's song in there, which is like late 90s, and you're playing late 60s, mid 70s, and late 90s hits. So Tal's been around since he was 2. You know, so when BTO started, my brother sat him on the drums, so he's a great drummer. But he's now playing and singing guitar. His wife Coco is our new drummer. She's from Japan, and the first album she was given when she was 15 was from her father, who saw BTO live, Budokan, in 76, and came and said, I want you to learn to play drums like this. Many, many, many years later, she meets and marries my son Tal, and she says, I learned to play drums so not fragile. And I go, what? And then she's evolved to being our drummer, and she is incredible. She channels my brother Robbie. It's just like the records. It's amazing.
Well, we're talking to Randy Bachman. He's talking about his son Tal, and he had this huge hit called High. So when that happens and he gets this hit, tell me how that feels as a musician and a father, because they say to be a successful musician, it's like lightning striking. So you're not in 1 but 2 successful bands, and then your son does it as well. So how did that feel as a dad when you get the news that this song is getting huge?
Well, it's nice. It's kind of near the past the middle part of a show we do American Woman, and then I introduce the whole band. And the last person I interview is Tal, and I say he was there. He grew up playing drums. My brother Robbie taught him to play drums. He had his own hit, and I'm going to turn it over to him. So Tal then goes to the mic and he says, well, growing up, I saw my dad and Burton Cummings and Fred Turner write all these songs, rock and roll songs, heavy metal songs, jazz songs, ballads, but they never really wrote, I don't think, a power pop song. So when I had a chance and a big contract with CBS Records, I thought I would write a real power pop song, and I got very lucky, and here's the song, and he does it, and everybody in the audience goes crazy. It's great.
What did you think? I had talked to Gary Peterson. He said he had loved it. What did you think of Lenny Kravitz's version of American Woman by the Guess Who?
I loved it, and what's cool is one day I get home, and there's a CD in the mail, and it's lime green. And I've never seen a lime green one before. But it's not a real CD from a record label. It's a home CD. And on it are 6 versions of American Woman, all by Lenny Kravitz, all different tempos and keys and everything. And sent to me by Mike Marshall who's doing Austin Powers. And he said, which one do you like? We're going to put the Guess Who one in the movie. We want to put Lenny Kravitz's over the closing credits. I said, well, I like these 2. And so those were the 2 they picked. And then at the time, Lenny had his 4th album just coming out. It wasn't being very well received. They pulled the album back, put American Woman on it. Then that went on to sell 4 million copies. It was then on his greatest hits, which came out after that, and he won the Grammy. Let me just say, I loved it.
Yeah. There's another thing, a tie into pop culture with you that I've always wanted to ask you about. In the movie High Fidelity, Jack Black is at a record store, and he debuts his band, and he says, hey, our band was called Kathleen Turner Overdrive. And I always thought that was hilarious, and if you'd ever heard that.
Yes, and there was a real band called Kathleen Turner Overdrive. We were playing, I was on the road with BTO, and, reading Billboard magazine, it said, the cast is filming in this little town. I think Peggy Sue Got Married is what it was called, and Kathleen Turner was acting in it. And so we checked into the hotel, and I see her in the restaurant eating. And I thought, wow, we're staying in the same hotel. So I went and got a T-shirt, the Bachman-Turner Overdrive T-shirt, and sent it to her room and crossed out, turned around, and I got a note from her saying, I love this shirt, I'll keep it forever. I think Jack Black is an incredible guy with what he does with rock and roll and humor. You look at some of his early flicks, he was like really one of those cool young generation actors. He's turned into a very great, respectable promoter, rock and roll guy, video guy. He's turned into everything. He's really a fun guy.
But you're in the Guinness Book of World Records. Tell me about this and how that happened.
Well, I got a call. There's a thing every year in Toronto called Music Week in Canada. So every band wants to go there. It's almost like South by Southwest right in Austin. So everybody wants to go to Toronto and set up their band playing a club, a church, out in the park, wherever you're doing this. It's the time to showcase bands and pitch deals. It's almost like going to meet them and getting record deals and stuff. Now to get a call saying, we're going to start Music Week in Canada. We're going to start one in the West Coast. We're going to Music Week in Vancouver. And would you come and play with the band? I said, what band? I don't even have a band. I'm going to England on holidays. I'm going to London to write songs. They said, well, we want you to play with the band and do Taking Care of Business to kick off Music Week, and we want to set a Guinness Book of World Records. We contacted Guinness guys. I said, what band are you talking about? They said, well, all you can do is you come on stage, and we're going to advertise on the radio that anybody can bring a guitar and play in the audience. And so all you do is come on stage with a drummer and a bass player and tell the audience you're ready to go and play the song. And then we'll do it outdoors in the Vancouver courtyard where the law courts are. There's a big court with benches and parks and bushes and everything where people are talking to their lawyers and stuff. But there's a great big center section where people just go and hang out, and a fountain and everything. So I say, okay, I'll cancel my trip to England. My family's still got to go. I'll stay one longer day, and I'll do this. And then just take me right to the airport because I'm flying to London at 6 o'clock. So on a Saturday afternoon, I go there about 2 o'clock, and there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And this is filmed from above. You can Google it on YouTube. With a helicopter, right? It's on BC News and Canadian News. And many, many, many thousands of guitar players are there. Instead of playing it in C, I say to everybody, I'm going to play this in the key of A, so it's much easier to play for an hour. We're going to try to set a world record here. Like playing in C, and the hardest chord to play on a guitar is F. So you're playing Taking Care of Business. The chords are C, B flat, and F, and you got to stay in that F, and it really is a left-hand cramp thing. But when you're playing in A, you can play on the 5th fret or the 2nd fret. It's much easier. So I say, okay, we're all going to play this in the key of A. The chords are A, G, and D. Everybody knows those on guitar. And I lead the thing off, and we do it for like 75, 78 minutes. Everybody goes, okay, you got a world record. I go into a car, I go to the airport, I fly to London, and what I didn't realize was CNN had just started. So it's around the world news. So if you're traveling around the world and you're an American in the States, you want to see what's going on. You're in Germany or Italy or Ireland or whatever. You put on CNN, and CNN was brand new, so they didn't have that much news yet, and they put my clip on there. So it runs every 12 minutes on CNN, and I've landed in London, and I'm going, it's my daughter's 21st birthday. I'm taking them all from London. We're going on the Flying Scotsman, which is a train, beautiful wooden train like in Agatha Christie mystery movies. We're on this train, the Flying Scotsman, to go to Edinburgh to have her birthday party in Edinburgh Castle, which in the basement is a restaurant. And as we get on the train, and we're in our own little private thing like you see in England, where they close the door, it's a little glass window and everything, and there's a knock at the window. And I look at the window, and the guy's from Metallica. And I go, wow, what are you guys doing here? And they say, what are we doing? What are you doing here? We just saw you on TV setting the world record. Congratulations. And I go, what? You're on CNN every 12 minutes. You're on a loop. You've been on for like 48 hours. Like you're on 4 times an hour. They go, holy cow. And so I say thanks to them, and they close the window. And then 20 minutes later, there's a knock on the window. Cyndi Lauper. And I go, what? What are you doing here? I just saw you on TV. And I say, this is my daughter, Lorelai. My daughter's right there. It's my daughter's 21st birthday. We're going to Edinburgh Castle. But I got to say, for you to be here is amazing because all her teenage years was a pajama party with girls just want to have fun. And she said, how about if I sing happy birthday to your daughter? So she sits there. She sings happy birthday to my daughter, Cyndi Lauper. And we haven't filmed it. My daughter just turned 20 years later. Now she's 40-something. And she plays it for her kids going, Cyndi Lauper sang me happy birthday on the Flying Scotsman with my dad going to Edinburgh Castle with Metallica on a train. It was really an experience.
Now, I heard another story, too. Can you tell me? I'm fascinated with this. Did you meet Les Paul as a kid? You couldn't get into the show, but you got to meet him for a little while?
Well, I was about 15, just learning guitar. When you're learning guitar, there's not a lot that you can learn. I mean, guys didn't have out albums. Chuck Berry only had out singles. Bo Diddley had singles. But who had albums out was Chet, Atkins, and Les Paul, two of the greatest pioneers of guitar, right, of all time. And so I start to learn that stuff. And then I hear Les Paul is playing in Winnipeg, and I don't have a car. My family doesn't even have a car. The other side of Winnipeg, which is the 3 transfer bus ride. You got to take a bus from your end of town into downtown, then another bus, then you transfer to another bus. This is on the way to the States. It's on the highway going to the States. It's called Rancho Don Carlos, and Les Paul and Mary Ford are playing there. And I have one album under my arm. I don't even tell my mother, and I'd say I'm getting on the bus after school to go to Rancho Don Carlos. They wouldn't let me go. So, I'm just going to be coming home late from school. So I get on the bus, I go to Rancho Don Carlos, and I get there, it's maybe like 10 after 5. I go to the front door, and I say, I want to get in. The guy said, where's your parents? I said, my parents are at home. Well, are they coming? No, they're not. I'm here to see Les Paul and alone. Well, you can't get in. The drinking age is 21, and it's a nightclub. Unless you're with an adult ordering dinner, you can't get in. And I go, you're kidding. And the guy says, you can't get in. So I go and sit out front. There's a bench out front, and it's a bus stop. And a Cadillac pulls up. And the window rolls down, and the voice says, hi, kid, how are you? And I go, what? And it's Les Paul. And he goes, are you here to see me? And I go, yeah, but I can't get in. Can you sign my album? And he said, I'll get you in. And I go, what? He said, you just follow the car. So he drives another 20 or 30 feet. I follow the car. He opens the trunk. There's a set of drums in there. His son Gene was there with him, who played drums, and Mary Ford was in the front, and a bunch of tape recorders. And he says to me, you carry in my stuff. I'll just say you're my roadie. If you can't get in the audience, you stand beside my tape recorders, which are in the kitchen, and I run the tape recorders. He had a control on his guitar, and he called it the Les Pulverizer, that he ran 4 big single-track Ampex tape recorders. So he would go into the audience, and he walked around in the audience with a microphone on his guitar, on a gooseneck, and Mary Ford had one on her gooseneck, and their son stayed on stage and played drums. So they walked table to table like guys do in a Mexican restaurant, and they would talk to the people, and they would sing Vaya con Dios and, How High the Moon and everything, and play it all. And he explained to the audience, here's how I recorded this song. I'll play the rhythm. Boom, chick, and here I'm pushing record. And beside me, backstage, the tape recorder starts and records the rhythm. Then he goes, now I'm going to push playback, and then I'm going to play a lead over that. And he does that. Now Mary Ford's going to sing. Now she's going to sing her own harmony. And I'm sitting there, and I watch the whole night. But I'm watching them from the back, and I'm watching through doors that have big round windows, about 2 feet square round windows. So when the waiters are walking back and forth with food on trays, they're not knocking the trays off with the doors. So I'm watching the rear end of Les Paul and Mary Ford through these glass windows. I can see the tape recorders, and nobody else can see the tape recorders. So I'm there, and I watch the whole show, and it's fantastic. But I don't really get to see them. And after the show, he comes back and says, here, hold this kid. And he gives me his guitar to hold. I hold it. And he said, anything else I can do for you? And I said, we just sign my album and teach me your riff on How High the Moon. That just a chromatic lift that goes all the way down. And he teaches me the riff, and Jeff Beck played that riff almost in every single song. So he teaches me that riff. Now fast forward 40 rocking years or something like that. I'm with BTO. We're opening for Van Halen. We go and play the Nassau Coliseum in New Jersey, just outside of Manhattan. And Les Paul comes to say hi to Eddie and Sammy Hagar, who had just joined Van Halen at the time, the 5150 tour. I'm in the dressing room. He comes over and he goes, hey, kid.
No way.
Do you still remember the riff? And I go, you remember me? He said, of course, Rancho Don Carlos in Winnipeg. I go, you're kidding. He said, can you play the riff? I said, yeah, I get a guitar. I play the riff. He said, okay, come tomorrow to the Iridium Club. I play there every Monday, and I want to have you come on stage. And I go, what? Are you kidding? And, yeah, I'm going to play How High the Moon. You're going to play that riff, and then I want to play one of yours. So I said, oh, okay. And we had just bought digital cameras. They were brand new then. My road manager bought. I go on stage. I play How High the Moon, and he says, let's play one of yours. And I play Taking Care of Business, and Les Paul plays it with me, and my road manager tapes it. And so I have this tape that I treasure forever. And then the next time back to New York, he invited me to his place in Maupon, New Jersey. And I was going to go, and the next morning was 911. The planes hit the building, everything closed, and I never got to go to his place in Maupon. I never saw him again.
Wow, though, but what an amazing way to treat a fan. That had to affect you when you meet a little kid going on. You're like, that's me, and now I'm Les Paul.
Exactly. He taught me to treat everyone differently, and so did Chet Atkins. Later on, I met Chet Atkins, the other world's greatest guitar player. who came to me in New York because was with the Guess Who, and we had just signed with RCA Records, and Chet Atkins was there in New York. And he comes up to me and he says, "Thank you so much for mentioning me on your album. This is a hit album." It was the second album with These Eyes and Laughing and She's Come Undone. Nobody mentions Chet Atkins when they're a rock and roll guy. I said, "Yeah, but if you learn Chet Atkins, I learned 5 of your albums. Once I learned your 5 albums, like 50 or 60 songs, I could play with any band anywhere in the world, because every Chet Atkins album has a bluegrass song, a country song, a medium tempo, a classical song, a bluegrass song, a jazz song, a rock and roll song. He played on all the Everly Brothers hits, Bye Bye Love and Dream, Dream, Dream. He played on all these other hits out in Nashville." And he said, "Thank you very much." And I said, "I have the same guitar you played on the Chet Atkins workshop, the Orange Gretsch." And he said, "Oh, the one with the extra mixing control on the top." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "There's only a few of those made, and you've obviously got one. I gave mine to my brother Jim. Do you ever think you'd want to sell your guitar? Because I'd really love to have it back. I'll just trade you a new Gretsch or give you some money." I said, "Well, I paid $400 to get it. I learned to play on it. I wrote These Eyes and Laughing. I played on Taking Care of
But
Business."
it's Chet Atkins is asking, yeah.
I can't give up this guitar. I said, "Okay, I get it. Then in 1976, after I finished an album with BTO in Toronto, the guitar gets stolen.
No.
It gets printed up in Rolling Stone in random notes. Chuck Young, writing random notes, calls me and he says, "Your Gretsch guitar was stolen and you offered a $10,000 reward for it?" I said, No, that's wrong. I offered a reward on whatever the person paid if they bought my stolen guitar from a pawn shop or whoever. If he paid $400, I'd pay him $400. I wouldn't pay $10,000 for the guitar. It's only worth $400. It has sentimental value to me, but whatever. So that's printed in Rolling Stone. A week later, my phone rings. My daughter answers the phone. I'm outside with my son Tal building a tree fort in a tree. I've got a sheet of plywood on my head, and the end of the sheet's in the crux of the tree, and Tal's trying to help me put a 2x4 in it to make this tree fort. And my daughter yells, "Dad, you're wanted on the phone." It's a guy named Chad. And I think it's Chad Allen, who used to be the lead singer in the Guess Who. He sang on Shakin' All Over. And I said, "Tell him I'll call him back. Okay, I'm busy doing this tree fort." Hang up the phone. Phone rings again. It's this guy named Chad again, and it's really not Chad. He's calling from Nashville. And I go, "I don't know any Chad in Nashville." So I go in the house, I answer the phone, I say hello, and he says, "Howdy, this is Chet." And I go, "What?" "This is Chet Atkins. Remember we met in New York?" I said, "Of course." He said, "Was that guitar the one I wanted, that was the one that was stolen?" I said, "Yeah, it was stolen." He says, "What's your address?" I tell him my address. He said, "A surprise is coming." 3 days later, a Super Chet arrives at my address. I call him up and I say, "This is amazing. I'm just sending that to you. There's only 3 in the world. They made one for me. It's a prototype. I've sent you the other, and the left-handed one went to Paul McCartney." All right, he says, "I'm playing with the Vancouver Symphony in 3 weeks. You've got the guitar. Bring it up there. We'll take pictures of me giving it to you. I'll autograph the pick guard, and you'll have a guitar for me." And so I have that treasure in my life. And what happened to me in the last 3 years is a guy found that in Tokyo, played by a guy named Takeshi, who's the Japanese Brian Setzer. He sings everything phonetically because he doesn't speak English. And this guy, who's a facial recognition expert for the government, like if you're coming over, the camera gets your face in the airport or over the border, and a thing flashes up if you're wanted by Interpol or if you should be on a no-fly list. But the guy's not working because of COVID, and nobody's traveling, so he's in his basement. I'm going to take a picture of Randy's Gretsch guitar, which you can see when I'm doing this song, Looking Out for Number One with BTO on YouTube. And that's the last time I had that guitar. So he does a facial recognition picture, and then he does a facial recognition internet search of every orange Gretsch guitar sold on the internet in the last 10 or 15 years. And up comes my guitar, played by this guy Takeshi, which is also another very weird thing, because in Japan, they do not celebrate Christmas. Okay, it's not a thing in Japan. But this guy is singing Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree phonetically in an American nightclub there for the Americans. He's singing it phonetically. He doesn't even know what he's singing, but he's playing my Gretsch guitar. My daughter-in-law now, Coco, who's drums with BTO, Japanese. She came from there. She married Tal in Japan. She said, I'll get a hold of this guy. So she gets him on a Zoom, tells him who I am. He has no idea who I am. He's 33 years of age. So she says, "This is my father-in-law. Da-da-da. He's a rock star. He's written all these songs." And so then Takeshi then goes and Googles it. He knows who I am. So we do another Google. And he says, I am an honorable man. I'll give you back your guitar. I did not steal it. I said, I know you didn't. He said, no, I bought it from Vintage Guitar in Tokyo. And I say, okay. I'll send you a brand new Gretsch. He says, I don't want a new Gretsch. I want a 1957 with a D-arm and pickups because that's the most twangy one. Halfway through 57, Gretsch put out the same guitar but with filtertrons, which got rid of the hum and the buzz. And Gibson did the same thing with their P90s. They went to the humbucker because all these guitars had a 60 and 90-second hum. These eliminated the hum. So I've got a very rare guitar. They made maybe 30 that year before they switched it to filtertron. So he says he wants one. I say, no problem. Of course it's a problem. I call a friend that I know in Loveland, Ohio. Do you have any 57 Gretsches with the black D-arm and pickups? He said, amazingly enough, I just got 3. A guy retired, he had 3 of them. I said, please send me pictures and send me the serial numbers. He sends me the pictures. I get the pictures. I look at it. The serial number of one of them is 2 digits off of mine, the one that was stolen. Made by the same guys and everything. So I call. We Zoom Takeshi again. We get his manager on the phone. This takes forever because I've got to go, konnichiwa. And then my daughter-in-law says, Randy's here. Randy's found a guitar. So I show him the guitar. And he says, fantastic. I said, okay, you send me that one. I found you a puppy from the same litter. I'll send you this and you send me that. He said, I'm not going to put this on an airplane. You've got to come to Japan.
No.
I can't travel. There's COVID. Nobody can get on an airplane. The same day, the head of the Canadian consulate in Japan calls me and he says, I've been seeing you and Tal's train wreck. We did a train wreck every Friday on YouTube, the Bachman train wreck, where Tal would stump me with 5 songs and I would try to stump him with 5 songs. We try to sing each other's songs acoustically. We didn't know the song. It was a train wreck and people loved it. So he said, I see your train wreck and I see that you found your guitar, but you can't come here. But because I'm the diplomat from Canada, I'll fly you in on a diplomatic passport. Air Canada will fly you in for nothing. It's a feel-good story because there's not good news in the last 3 years. Okay, we're going to do the switch on Canada Day on July the 1st. That's the first time I can have people come to my consulate because I've been here 2 years. I couldn't open the consulate. Everything was shut down. So we fly to Japan. I get my guitar in Canada Day from Takeshi. He plays Taking Care of Business, sings it phonetically. I go out, I trade him the guitar. Now this is a documentary coming out called Taking Care of Business, how Randy Bachman found himself and found his guitar. It was gone 49 years. And I've got it back. It's in my house now. It's amazing. I wrote all these #1 hit songs with it. The guy who found me that guitar, his name is William Long. He found Neil Young's stolen orange Gretsch guitar, which was stolen in the same year as mine. He found it for Neil. Neil now has it back, and now is playing it on tour in Europe. And I've got mine back. And Neil is playing here in the middle of September in Deer Lake Park over in Vancouver. And I'm going to see if I can get there with mine. And he and I will both have our lost Gretsch guitars on stage and play Taking Care of Business and Mr. Soul or something with William Long there, the guy who wanted no money, wanted no fame, found our guitars because he's an internet sleuth. So this documentary is going to be coming out soon on me and my Gretsch guitar.
That's such an amazing story. I can't believe that all happened and came together at the end. And then Neil Young ties in, and this guy's kind of ends up being more of a hero than a villain of like a stolen guitar. That's awesome, Randy.
It's a really great documentary. I saw it. It was premiered last year at Toronto International Film Festival, and it was the audience favorite. Then it premiered in Nashville, Salt Lake City, and Newport Beach, and it was the audience's favorite in every single one. Everyone left in tears. It's really a tear-jerking movie because halfway through getting all this, I get double COVID and 4 cancers, and it has me getting chemo and looking like a living corpse, and then recovering from it and getting my guitar back. It's an incredible story. Nobody could ever write this. You can't make these things up. They just happen. When I was going through my chemo treatments, my daughter-in-law, Coco's with me, and I've got 7 doctors and 7 medications. She films it all on a little camera to keep track of my medications, when to take this when you wake up, and you get nausea pills, and you get all these other kind of things. She has all this, so this all becomes a real part of the film. So it's not only is it a film of my Gretsch guitar, it's got all BTO footage from when I'm playing the guitar, and the Guess Who footage where I'm playing this guitar on American Bandstand and things like that. So it's a really great, great guitar story if you're a guitar player. And then since then, John Fogerty got his Rickenbacker back after 50 years. George Harrison's estate got his 59 Gretsch back after 50 years.
Peter Frampton got one back?
Frampton got his back. Same thing. It was all gone in 75, 76, and they're all coming back 50 years later. So there's There's kind of a karmic guitar circle out there in the world, and my Orange Gretsch is part of that circle.
What was your impression then of opening up for Van Halen with Sammy and Eddie Van Halen? I've heard incredible stories about Eddie treating other musicians and fans.
Well, I met Sammy earlier when he was like the Red Rocker. I'm writing songs for Sammy for his next album. And then Sammy comes to my place in Washington. He says, I'm not going to use your songs right now. I'm joining Van Halen. I go, what? And he said, David Lee Roth's leaving. I said, wow, that's great. Congratulations. He calls me a week later. He said, we've done an album. I don't want to go on stage and have anybody yelling, where's David? So will BTO come and open for Van Halen? I go, are you kidding? And I said, we just finished a 90-day tour. I don't know if we can go on tour any longer. Fred Turner's got teenage kids, so have I. They got problems at home. We've got wife problems at home. We've been on the road. And this is on a Thursday. He said, call Fred Turner. I've got to know tomorrow by 5 o'clock. We've got 4 other bands, but I want BTO to open. I don't want a popcorn band. They used to have a band that meant nothing for Van Halen. So you'd be out buying merch and popcorn and finding your seat. He said, I want a band to come out and play 5 hit songs in 25 minutes, and I want people screaming. I want them screaming, taking care of business. I want them screaming, rolling down the highway. Or when I come out, nobody's going to yell, where's Dave? We're going to start right into Jump or something, or Why Can't This Be Love? Can you come for the weekend? Eddie's got a new girlfriend named Valerie Bertinelli.
No way.
And it's in her hometown, and BTL's her favorite band, so she wants you guys to open. Come and do the weekend. So I go, okay, we'll do the weekend. I call Fred Turner, and he says, I can't come. My son's in rehab. And I call Sammy and say, I can't come. He said, look, you sing TCB, you sing Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, you sing Let It Ride. All I just need is 4 or 5 songs. You just come with your 2 brothers and do the thing. So I fly there for the weekend. He says, you were great. We want you on all 11 months. Doing the 5150 tour, it's 11 months. And I said, look, I can't come without my kids. Can I bring 1 kid at a time? No problem. I've got my son Aaron is 19. Your son Tal is 19. They can hang out together, all that kind of stuff. Eddie's courting Valerie. He doesn't care. We're a family band, Eddie and Alex, and you can come with Tal and your brother Tim and all that kind of stuff. So we open for Van Halen, and every week he lets me bring one of my kids. And when you're on tour for this, there's like 90 people. There's trucks and buses and planes and boats and everything. People are getting married. People are getting sick. People are passing away. Everything is happening. It's like a small city, and you get to know everybody very intimately. One night, I think we're playing in the World's Fair is on or something is on. We're playing in Tennessee. We're staying in this beautiful hotel, and my phone rings at 2:30 in the morning, and a voice says, Randolph? And I go, yes? And the other voice says, Edward. Okay, nobody's called me Randolph since grade 3. When my teacher goes, Randolph, stop chewing gum. Or your mother says, Randolph, you're being too noisy in Sunday school or something. Everybody's called me Randy.
And what time is this? You said like 2 in the morning? 2:30
in the morning. Randolph, Edward. And I go, yes. Room 202. Click. What? Am I being fired from the tour? It's in the basement. I think it's in Chattanooga, Tennessee, wherever the World's Fair was. I knock on the door opens, and there's Valerie in bed, and Ed is there with a little guitar. And he said, I'm coming out. And he comes out, and we sit in the hall. Outside there, he's got a little guitar. He said, I just got a call from L.A. My best friend from high school just took himself out. They found him in the garage with his car, with the exhaust running, with all my albums in his lap. And I know he's on his way to heaven. And I want to play guitar for him. Sit down. I sit down. Eddie is there in tears. I am in tears. His best friend is gone. He plays guitar like I've never heard in my life. He plays stuff on guitar that no one in the world has ever heard him play. This goes on for 2 hours. Doors are opening downstairs. Guys hearing the noise, and they see me and Eddie sitting on the floor. And so they come out quietly and close the door, and they sit down. Instead of yelling, will you guys shut up or keep it down? They realize something's going on. And then I gave him a hug and said goodnight. We said, love you, man, love you, man. And the tour went on, and this was my own private moment in my life with Edward Van Halen, which I will treasure forever. So Chet Atkins, Les Paul, Eddie Van Halen, Brian May, a good buddy. I mean, it's quite amazing. Joe Bonamassa played with BTO when he was 12. I went and played with him in London a couple of years ago. It was phenomenal.
That's amazing. It's Randy Bachman, the Guess Who, Bachman-Turner Overdrive, Western Idaho Fair, Monday, August 18th. We did mention he's playing Towel Song on stage. I've looked at some of the set lists this year. Looks like you're doing BTO and Guess Who songs together. Who's the bigger band, BTO or the Guess Who? I would say BTO with the radio hits, but I read that the Guess Who has actually sold more records.
Well, here's the thing. I'm very lucky to have been in both bands, to be the leader of both bands, to write songs with the greatest lead singers in the world, Burton Cummings. Couldn't get a better lead singer. And then Fred Turner, right? Like, one is more like Robert Plant, the other one's more like John Fogerty. But I just felt very, very lucky. But I was with the Guess Who 8.5 years. I was with BTO 4. And in the 4 years of BTO, we sold more records than the Guess Who. BTO was like number one in the world in 75, 76 with the Not Fragile album. And You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet was the number one single in 22 countries. The Guess Who kind of ended with American Woman. They had a lot of hits after that, but they became more of an American band touring the States. Together and alone, Burton Cummings and I wrote some of the greatest rock and roll hits to come out of Canada. And we're getting together next year. I'm finishing out this year as BTO. Burton's finishing his own solo stuff. Next year, I'll be touring with Burton as the Guess Who, Randy Bachman, the guys who wrote Undone, Laughing, No Time, No Sugar Tonight. We do the whole thing. And I play all the other hits. And now when I'm with BTO, so many fans email us, and anybody out there can email us at btoband.com. And they asked if we would play some Guess Who hits. So I said, sure, why not? All the Guess Who fans in the middle of the show, they get These Eyes, Laughing, She's Come Undone, No Sugar Tonight, American Woman, No Time. They get all that stuff. And then Tal does She's So High near the end. And there's a big home run hit with She's So High, Let It Ride, Taking Care of Business, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. And we do another thing where we get the fans to sing every single song. And it's just a phenomenal time. We have the greatest time on stage. We bring my little baby granddaughter who's 8 months, and she's half Japanese, right, because of Coco, wears little pink headphones, and she comes up with drumsticks, air drums, and the crowd loves it because everybody who used to be a trucker or a biker, you know, the big guys, BT always appealed to big guys because we were big ourselves. All these guys now have mellowed out. They're not rough, tough bikers anymore, truckers. They've all gotten married. They all had babies. And we come up with this little 8-month-old baby who's smiling and laughing and screaming, like singing the Immigrant Song like Robert Plant. The audience goes crazy. It's just really a lot of fun.
Last question. I've heard you reference this before, too. It can be Bachman or Bachman, right? You've heard it pronounced several different ways.
In Canada, we grew up saying Bachman. In England, they say Bachman. In Germany, they say Bachman. And in the States, they say Bachman. We had a German guy that signed us to Mercury Records, and in our first bio, he put, here's my new band, Bachman-Turner Overdrive, and in parentheses, he put, how to pronounce it, Bockman. I grew up saying Bachman. You can say Bach or Bach. Do you know what I mean? Catherine Bach, Catherine Bach, whatever. Potatoes, potatoes, tomato, tomatoes. When I first go on American Bandstand, Dick Clark says to me, how do you say your name? I'm Randy Bachman from Bachman-Turner Overdrive. So I get it both in the one sentence. He goes, that's brilliant.